Okay, moving on to chapter 32. This one's titled Conversation with a Leader, the Classical Concerto. So far with the classical period, we talked about chamber music. Next, we talked about the symphony, and now we're going to look at the concerto. Now, the concerto is also broken up into movements, just like the symphony or the string quartet. And the classical era has shifted its emphasis from the solo group to the solo instrument. So instead of having, maybe like a trio and then the orchestra, we're going to have just the solo instrument with the orchestra. Now, this is the chance for the virtuoso soloist to really take charge and be the strong conversation leader. So there's a dialogue between the soloist and the orchestra. And I keep pointing back here because if I'm the soloist, the orchestra is behind me. So the concerto itself is usually 3 movements where we have different tempos: the fast, slow, fast. And this was established by Vivaldi. Remember him with the 4 seasons? Now, also within the concerto, we have a cadenza, which is a section of the music where it's a virtuosic solo passage. So that means the orchestra falls silent and stops playing, and the soloist can just free play, and they can expand upon one or more themes that were presented in the music and vary them to different lengths. This is that time for that soloist to shine, and really show all the different technical skills and all the, show-stopping techniques that the soloist can do. So here we have an engraving of a concerto performance in 1777 with a woman soloist. So she is playing at the harpsichord, and this was by Johann Rudolf Holzhalb, and he was born 1723, died 1806. Now we're going to talk about the first movement of the concerto form. This is the first movement is in the sonata allegro form with a double exposition. So that means the orchestra plays an exposition. So we're in the tonic key, and then so we start with theme 1 in the tonic. Then we have a bridge that's going to transition us to the second theme, which is going to be in the second, or a different key, usually the dominant, which is a fifth away. And then after that second theme has been stated, we have a closing theme that kind of wraps it up, and then the exposition would repeat. Now in this case, the orchestra has an exposition in the tonic key, but in the second exposition, the soloist has elaborated versions of the themes. Now we have the cadenza, which is near the end of the movement. So remember, the orchestra stops playing and the soloist goes to town. And then once the soloist is done, then everyone joins back in for the coda section, which is a strong affirmation in that home tonic key, and then the movement is over. So Mozart wrote a lot of piano concertos. He wrote 27 of them. And these were he had public performances where Mozart was at the piano. He was a very gifted pianist. And he had many brilliant flourishes and elegant gestures in his music. So here is Mozart's forte piano, which is the precursor to the piano that we have today. And this is now in the Mozarteum in Salzburg, Austria. So it's a Mozart's museum of all things Mozart. And notice how the colors of the keys are white and black. They are reversed of what today's piano looks like. So where the white is usually where our black keys are, and the black on there in this picture is where our white keys are. So it's reversed or inverted. So in 1784, Mozart wrote 5 concertos. So Köchel 453. So remember, the Köchel is the library catalog person, and this is his 453rd piece. And he composed it for his student Barbara von Pleuer. Now this piece had very graceful writings for the woodwinds, so very pleasant, very smooth. We have a lyrical slow movement, which is usually the second movement, and that is in the theme and variations. Now the third movement is very dance-like, has a dance-like theme, and he actually taught this to his pet starling. Now for the listening guide for this piece, Mozart's Piano Concerto in G major, Kochel 453. This is the first movement. This has that first movement concerto form. So we have the exposition. So theme 1 is in the violins, and it's a very lilting, quiet theme. Theme 2 is quiet and lyrical, but the violins are answered by the woodwinds. Then we have the solo exposition, or the new piano theme, which happens between themes 1 and 2. And then we have our development section with a very virtuosic piano part. So it's very busy, lots of stuff happening with various modulations. And after that development section's over, we have the recapitulation. So we're back in our tonic theme. So tonic key, theme 1, the strings have a decorated version by the piano. So the original theme that you heard with the strings, now with the piano, but a decorated, more elaborate version. And then we have the piano theme with a light orchestral accompaniment. And then theme 2 is in the piano and then the woodwinds. And then we have a cadenza by Mozart with variations on the earlier themes. So here's the breakdown for Listening Guide 22. So remember, with the Baroque concerto form, we have the ritornello and then the episode. The ritornello was the orchestral refrain, the part that kind of unified the whole piece that kept repeating. And then the episodes were the soloist time for them to play their melody or virtuosic part. We still have that kind of similar theme. The orchestral exposition or ritornello. And then looking at the solo exposition, theme 1, the piano enters with a sweep into the main theme, decorated in G major. The woodwind accompaniment with scales and arpeggio figurations in the piano. So with that ritornello, we still have, our semblances of the concerto from the Baroque era. But now we're getting into more technical and more development, more ability to have conversations musically, rather than just the orchestra, soloist. Now we're having a conversation and swapping of themes and material. And that's it for chapter 32. See you in class.